Let's do math. A Dvar Torah for Parashat Miketz. This week's Dvar Torah deviates so much from my usual writing that no apologetic introduction will do. Just accept that I too have unexplained moments of weakness, and before you is the product of one of these cases. Paro's dream at the beginning of the parasha raises many questions, and in my opinion, the most significant among them is, how can one continue to call themselves a wise sage of Egypt when they're unable to solve such a simple dream? Although I don't have a degree in dream interpretation, Yosef's solution seems reasonable and intuitive. Most Pshat commentators addressed this question and gave one of three answers. There was a divine intervention, Rabbeinu B'chaye. It's hard to imagine a famine in Egypt, the Netziv, and the sages thought that these were two different dreams because Paro woke up in between them, Rabbi Yosef B'chol Shol. I want to suggest a fourth option that takes me out of my comfort zone. It was originally based on things I heard from Rabbi Uri Sharki, but as you'll see, I was somewhat enthusiastic about it. It's hard to ignore the number of times the letters Shin Bet Ayin are repeated in our chapter using two different meanings, the number 7 and the opposite of hunger. According to Rav Sharki, the number 7 is quite significant in the Semitic culture, therefore Shabbat is on the 7th day, Shavuot on the 7th week, the month of the holidays is the 7th month, Shemitah in the 7th year, and the Yovel the 7th Shemitah. Egyptians, on the other hand, found the number 7 meaningless. The Egyptian typological number was 5. This can be seen also in the Torah when the Egyptian ruler Yosef multiplies Binyamin's meals 5 times more than the rest. He takes 5 of his brothers to present them to Paro. When Yosef sells Egypt to Paro, the people give a 5th to Paro, and this 5th becomes a law of the land. Finally, when the Israelites leave Egypt, they leave Chamushim, which kind of sounds like 5. The Egyptian sages and dream interpreters could understand private dreams related to the number 7, which is why the Midrash claims that the answers Paro began to receive were personal. You shall have 7 daughters, and you shall bury 7 daughters. They're unable to think of a national message related to the number other than 5. Up until now is a summary of Rabbi Sharki's words. From this point onwards, it's all my fault. Yosef, a son of the Semitic Hebrew nation, is not confused when the number 7 is inserted into the equation. After all, he grew up in a family where the number 7 was very meaningful. Just this simple fact gives him an advantage over the Egyptian sages, but it doesn't end there. Yosef, who had already spent several years in Egypt, understands that without the magic number 5, Paro won't understand his message. Yosef has to prove a complicated mathematical equation. 7 equals 5. That's what Yosef needs to strive for, and this is where the real magic begins. After explaining the dream to Paro, Yosef presents him with a practical solution. Paro shall appoint officials over the land, vechimesh et eretz Mitzrayim b'sheva shnei asava. This could mean that he shall make sure that the land has more supplies, but he uses a word that could also mean 5, vechimesh. Yosef's task then changes from difficult, explaining Paro's dream, to impossible, turn 7 into 5. Here some more numbers come to his aid. Paro dreams, wakes up, and dreams again. This makes the sages think that Paro had 2 dreams and conduct a simple mathematical equation. A dream full of 7 multiplied by 2 dreams equals 14. In other words, irrelevant to the Egyptian nation. Yosef, on the other hand, understands that this is not a multiplication problem, but a subtraction one instead, since Paro's dream is 1, that is, 7 times 1, another very significant number to the Shema Yisrael family. Why then does the dream repeat itself? Because God is in a hurry to do it. That is, decrease the amount of time we're discussing about, or in other words, subtract. The truth is that Yosef doesn't even need this math, because Sarah Mashkim did it for him. Miketz shnatayim yamim. He isn't released from prison until 2 years later. I realize that I might have lost some people on the way. Unfortunately, this won't stop me from continuing. The numbers continue to tell their story on their own. After Yosef confesses to his brothers, he tells them that Hashem sent him to make sure they have a livelihood because it has been 2 years of famine among the land and 5 more years where there is no plowing or harvest. Important information that explains why it's worthwhile bringing Yaakov to Egypt. Why, however, does he have to repeat the words in verse 11 and say, because there will be another 5 years of famine? And one final spicy point that will conclude my obsession with numbers for this week is Paro's response to Yosef. Paro mounts him on the second carriage, Merkevet Mishneh, emphasizing his ability to subtract 2 and reach 5. But no less interesting is a special garment he gives him, Vayalbesh oto bigdei shesh, 6, because Yosef is the number that connects between 5 and 7. I didn't mention that even in our Torah that has 5 chumashim, there are actually 7, because there's a Gemara that says Vayihi binso Aaron, the psukim in Sefer Bamidbar, are actually considered a book upon their own, which actually makes that into 7, because you divide the Bamidbar into 3, up to Vayihi binso Aaron, from Vayihi binso Aaron, and Vayihi binso Aaron itself. I'm also not so sure what to make of Yosef being 30, or any other number that appears in this specific parasha. What I do know is that although it was strange, I enjoyed it, and I hope you will too. You could also leave some comments below, or maybe you want to buy my book. It's in the comments below as well. I am Dovi Holtz, one who loves numbers and Tanakh.